Welcome to my channel, everybody. I'm really glad that you're here. So we're going to take a step back and change up the subject a little bit. Now, if you're new to my channel, I focus on creature design, creatures and characters. So I thought, hey, why don't I show you how I construct little scenes that I like to use if ever I do environmental concept art for games. Also, it's just fun. It's just fun to do little scenes and constructing these in a way that will help you as a viewer act like you're actually there, feel like you're there. So I'll show you how to do that. So what I'm doing is I am doing a basic hillside. If you're feeling a little inclined to do like a border or something, you can do that. You know, this is going to be slightly off screen if I do a border, so I'm just going to keep the subject matter in the middle right here. And we're going to have a cool little nature scene, but it's going to be rather mysterious. So I immediately start thinking of the foreground. What kind of formations can I put right in front to help pull the viewer in? And of course I am thinking of the rule of thirds. If you're not familiar with what the rule of thirds are, I do encourage you to at least look that up to see how old masters did it. But it's essentially splitting the entire picture plane up into thirds. So if you have, let's say over here, real quick, just a quick little lesson. We have a landscape. Okay, we have 3 sections going vertically. We have 3 sections going horizontally. Wherever those sections intersect, so these are the 4 major quadrants. It's good to have main subject matter, motion, or an attention grabber in one of these areas where they intersect. So this is like the rule of thirds. And of course, in between all of these, you have open areas to experiment and put whatever shapes you want in there. Okay, but we'll move to our scene here. And again, we're going to put some like small stones, maybe some rocks in here. I'm keeping everything very loose. The other thing that I want to do is, if I'm ever doing environmental concept art for a game, for a movie, how can I establish the path that the person is going to need to travel to get from point A to point B? Now, what is the end goal for the person traveling through this? So you want to have some kind of structure or some kind of end result that's going to show up over here. So let's just keep things simple. If you're sketching along with me, try to make it seem like your character has to pass through whatever you're about to draw. There is no way around it. Is it treacherous? Is it life-threatening? Are there creatures in here? And you know, this environment is not going to be complete without at least one creature, right? I have to do that. Well, I don't have to. I want to. It's fun, and it gives that video game type feel. Like, well, we have to go beat that big boss in the background over here, and it's about the size of like a large tree or size of a mountain. Let's go do it. But anyway, I have some rocks over here, some formations, and here's a slight little path. Now notice how light I'm keeping everything. It's because I'm still thinking and I'm still experimenting as I draw this environment out. So I will say that I believe the person should be standing right about here. This is just my thought. I'm just going to put a small body right here. Okay, and then as I do that, notice how I did the little head first, and then I'm putting the shoulders in. And I'm doing it slowly. I'm putting in like a sword scabbard in the back, maybe a large backpack. A lot of times I notice that when folks start painting environments, the actual structures of nature looks good, but the people look super stiff. You want to make sure that you put some energy and some motion, even on the tiny little people that you put in there. So what I did was I made sure that this leg is being positioned forward and this one is in the back, as if this character really is walking forward. trying to find his step and finding out where he's going. Doesn't have to be perfect. We don't even know what kind of armor he has or anything, but we do know that he's walking, or she, doesn't matter. So once we have that, you know, maybe there's some tiny little silhouette shapes that we can put on here to maybe show some shoulder armor. Maybe the arm is coming out a little bit. Who knows? I'm very intrigued already to find out like what this guy's all about. Okay, so once we have that, I'm actually going to start shading a little bit. I'm just going to put in a light coating, and I'm going to run across the page. Now, once I do this, I want to make sure that the pencil strokes are close together. I'm going across the entire landscape. Remember, everybody, you do not need to compartmentalize an environment sketch. Let everything be loose. This is an environment. We're not doing individual little pieces and then placing them together to form an environment. No. This character that's walking through here is living and breathing and walking in a 3D world. And I'm not going to get any darker than that. Of course, I'll go back and make it smooth at some point. But what we want to do is we want to play off of light, medium, and dark lines. So notice how the very light lines that I'm putting in are barely showing through the shading that I just put down. That's okay. These are my thinking lines. So if you're drawing along with me right now, what are your thinking lines and where are you placing them? Are you putting some boulders in here, maybe some hints at bushes? Okay, think about the landscapes that this character might need to walk through. Are you drawing a jungle scene? Are you doing, you know, something cyberpunkish, steampunkish, ancient? Like, who knows? Okay, so the other thing I may want to do is just show some really large structures in the background. Just something odd, almost like a mushroom shape. There we go. So maybe there's a fortress in here that this character needs to walk to. And the other thing is, when it comes to lighting, I'm going to keep everything rather dim and eerie, just for atmosphere purposes and mood. I'm going to shade where the feet are touching the ground. There's going to be no definitive foot shape. It's more of, hey, there's a shadow, and we're going to leave it open to interpretation as to what he's actually walking on. Is it mud? Is it gravel? Is it just a well-worn path over the centuries? You know, it's up to you to decide that. But all we know is he's passing by himself, and he's entering a mysterious land. All right. So the shading doesn't have to be perfect, but I eventually will be passing over it 3 or 4 more times, similar to what I do with my characters and creatures. You've seen my videos before if you're familiar with my channel. I like to pass over them a minimum of 3 times. Notice how inside this little area, it's the smoothest. I didn't press harder with each new pass that I'm shading in. So instead, I'm just making sure that my pencil's sharp, and I'm holding the pencil itself really far back. I'm using a 4B. This is a Tombow pencil. So that I'm making sure that I have enough control where I can have some decent shading, but I'm not getting dark. This human is still the darkest. This is my focal point. But what I do know is that in the foreground here, I'm going to want to define some of the land a little bit more. Just like this. Very light. I don't know what kind of path it is. Maybe it's a man-made path. Maybe it has nothing to do with animals. But I do know that it's still going to have some overgrowth, maybe some small little boulders and foliage. But I don't want to go overboard with it because I still want there to be an open area right there for the character to walk through. Okay, so let's try to fit that on there again. There we go, that's looking decent. Try to keep this sketchbook flat too. All right, let's see what else we can do here. Let's move the shading up the page a little bit. Notice how I'm keeping all the strokes close together. See how I'm going outside of the lines and the shading is just flowing freely off the page. These shapes are the last thing I drew, shape-wise. Now I'm just shading past it, so I'm just gonna go with this odd angle and walk up that, I guess, hillside way out there, that little mountaintop, and then we'll call it. Okay, now we can start to see some atmosphere building up. This is what we want. Look at your drawing right now and ask yourself, hey, is there some atmosphere? And if you find yourself obsessing too much about each line, just start putting stuff in. See how I'm just scribbling this hillside right there? Just do that. Just loosely put it in. Don't care about any of the outcomes. There we go. We do not want to get too heavy in shading in the back though. It's going to stop right around here. As a matter of fact, we can still add in some more. I may have to turn my sketchbook just a little bit so that we can get some in here. So if it looks like he's going downhill, it's just because I turned my sketchbook a little bit. But I'm still going to keep the details right around this character. This is where the fun starts. I mean, all of it is fun. But once we start to get that in there, we can start to see little plants emerge. And maybe driftwood, maybe this land floods, or maybe there are some small trees that we need to add in there. Slowly but surely, you can start to see all the foliage and all of the nature really coming together. There we go. Comment below and tell me if you're an environment artist, but you're struggling to come up with little scenes. Try this method out. When I say this method, I mean just draw traditionally. Don't worry about all the fancy brushes that you can get in Photoshop and all that goofiness. Okay, I love Photoshop. I love the brushes, but I think people rely way too much on specific pencils or brushes to achieve the markings. And it's not the brush or the pencil, it's your hand. So just make sure that you practice traditionally so that you can form that emotional bond with the act of drawing. There we go. Really feel the paper underneath. Now it's getting a little smoother. I do know that the midground right here, we're going to start to see maybe some trees. So I'm just going to put in some tree trunks first. I don't know what type of tree it is. Maybe something rather puffy. But I'm going to shake my hand. Not violently, but just make sure that the hand is at least shaky a little bit so I can have some indications of leaves. Whenever you do trees, make it chaotic. Trees do not grow perfectly. Trunks are twisted. Tree tops are not always perfectly round. Even though we like order as people, as human beings, when we draw, we love order. We like making things symmetrical so that we can better understand it when they're not even supposed to be symmetrical. There we go. Okay. This is when depth really comes into play because the background, we don't need to worry about it as much anymore. All we need to do is highlight what kind of path that this character needs to take. This kind of looks like water and I don't want to do that, so I'm going to put some stones right there to make it seem like, oh, this is actually coming out of dirt. And maybe, well, it still kind of looks like water, doesn't it? Maybe it is water, like, I don't know. Let's just keep it fun, keep it spontaneous. I do know that the values between the path and the embankment right here, they need to be a little darker. There we go. Okay. So maybe some high grass right there, that can definitely work. And since he's traveling, maybe we can pretend that he's trying to find his long lost brother or something. Or maybe his land got ravaged by a giant creature and he needs to leave. Who knows? Who knows what's going on in his head? See these tree trunks that I'm putting here? Just an indication of maybe a patch of trees from a forest that's going to be in the background. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Or maybe he's about to travel and enter a really dark, creepy forest. Wouldn't that be awesome? Let's just start doing that. So see how I'm playing up on depth right here? Wouldn't that be cool if I just drew a creature right back there? Ooh, maybe I should. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I'm going to put one more pass at a 45-degree angle going there, so there could be some like mist in the background. Maybe there's an opening where this path goes into. Okay, so remember what I said? We have to give the character purpose. I think this is going to be the purpose. We need to find a reason why he is traveling. And the only way is this path right here. So let's make this dark, kind of foreboding opening right there. Maybe it's like a tunnel, but maybe there's twisted trees around it. See how I'm slowly putting in trees, and we can't really tell if that opening was a rock. There we go. Maybe some twisted, ooh, man. It's getting freaky. It's getting freaky, folks. So this set of trees right here is going to have to be a little darker. This is what's going to establish the depth. So see how the opening is right there in the background, but the tree is right there, and they're a little too similar. So I'm going to push a little harder right in front of the opening, so I can start to round off that tree and make it look like the opening in the background is farther away due to atmospheric perspective. There we go, right like that. I also have to be very careful that I don't get too dark on that tree, because guess what? Our little character here is in the foreground, and we don't want that to match that. Otherwise there would be no depth. So let's make our dude a little darker at the head, and I'm going to fade it off as I get towards the ground. And I'm not going to define the feet. Instead, I'm just going to put in some light shading again right underneath there, and almost have it blend in directly with the dirt and the mud or whatever's down there. There we go. So much fun, everyone. Okay, once we have that, there's a lot of things that we can do inside here. Maybe there's a weird little line here at the embankment. Maybe there's like another little path of water that comes out. Definitely down here in the foreground, we can do some cool things with the ground. We still don't know where that path came from. Maybe the path whips around like this. Maybe he just stayed on the embankment the whole time. Maybe there really isn't a path. How cool would that be? Maybe there's no path at all. He's just kind of following nature in uncharted territory. Nobody has walked here before, but all of a sudden he sees a mysterious opening. Like, is this ancient? Did somebody actually live down there? We go. See how I'm building up the values? Look at your drawings right now and see if your values are being built up. I kind of switch back and forth whenever I do this. So if I have something that I like, that I outlined, I'll put in a little bit of shading, because I'm pretty confident with that area. I do that with creature design too. There we go. Okay, so I think I figured out what I want to do here. I'm just going to put in some puffy shapes, small, tiny little circles, which will act as like tundra, like foliage, whatever you want to call it down there. And then I'm going to pop off some plants like this, making sure that the plants themselves are a little chaotic, meaning how they grow. See how I did a marking over the leg? I'm going to continue that, because remember, this plant is in front, so it's going to be a little darker, and now our character is a little bit lighter. This is specifically why I was darkened, I darkened it at the head, and I got lighter as I went down the body, because I knew that the plants in the front were going to have to go over the feet and be darker. So now there's a really cool play on contrast right there. And then we could just keep going. There we go. If you're really interested about my process and like creature design and how I handle client briefings and all of that fun stuff with concept art, games, and film. I started a Patreon. It's a growing community. It's a bustling community. Definitely check that out. There's even stuff, if you just want to join for free and poke around, that's totally fine. We have a Creature Design Workshop Discord. It's absolutely free to join for that. That's where I conduct my mentorship, so check the links in the description below for all of these. I will say that my live streams are reserved for my Patreon, so if you want to learn some nitty-gritty design techniques and behind the scenes of what I do for creature design, definitely give a thought about joining that one. Okay, here we go. Now we're having a lot of fun. So hopefully you're picking up a lot of really cool tips here. And if you also have some tips that you would like to give viewers, comment below. Let's hear it. Let's hear your tips, especially if you're a professional environment artist, you've been doing it for games and film for a long time, or you just love environments. Let's have it. Let's hear it. All right, I'm going to start shading a little bit on the outside. There we go. Okay, turn it one more time. Well, not one more time, but a little bit more. I come down here at the bottom. Ah, so much fun, man. Okay. It's really starting to come together now. We're starting to see foliage in the background, cool looking trees. I'm just going to put in some small puffy shapes, and this is going to act like leaves that you can faintly see in the background. This character knows that the only way into the secret valley is through this dense, swampy forest. And there's a foreboding sense of dread coming up. Oh, I'm going to have to put a tree trunk right here. So the cool thing about doing this is this can actually be a dead tree. But notice how dark the limbs are of the tree. Okay, that's because the darkness of this tree is significant. It's dead. Maybe it's a special tree. Maybe our character stayed the night at an inn, and then during midday, he finally got to his destination at the old tree in the embankment. Old dead tree. And it's going to stand out more than the others. So let's put like a weird twist on some of these limbs. I should say branches. And this is the one excuse I can give for making the foreground object as dark as the character. There's a connection between the two. So now I'm establishing a clear path that the character has to take in order to get to where he needs to go. And he has to go past that tree. And you know it'd be even cooler as if some of those dead tree limbs kind of went into the water. I'm going to have to get a little darker over everything, and it's going to touch the water. There we go. So now that we're starting to fill out this environment, I want to start thinking about some secondary details that we can put to really establish the realism of this setting here. So the ground that he walked on, right in the foreground, or right up front here, I think we should establish at least a small little landmark. Something fun, maybe a stone, and I'm starting light, and I'm just rolling some shadows off to connect to the ground. See how puffy all of the shading is? So we got the ground coming over to the rock, and we got the rock growing right here. Well, the rock being right here. We're not going to show the separation of dirt and rock. We want to keep that mood. We want to keep that sense of wonder. You know, to try to come up with something similar, it's kind of like knowing what the creature looks like too soon in the movie, and then you don't want to know what it really looks like too early on. It's kind of the same way with environments. Think about the joy of knowing that you don't know something. Like, I wonder how the story is going to unravel. Or is that a person down there, or is it a creature? And we can't really tell. So here I am drawing this thing, and it kind of looks like a dead plant. But is it really? Is it a plant? Or are these weird plant-like insectoid arms coming out of a tree trunk? Something strange. So each person viewing this is probably going to have his or her interpretation for it. That's what makes this so intriguing and so much fun. When I would study environment paintings from Thomas Moran, he had this awesome ability to put in shrubbery and put in bushes, but not really define what the leaves actually were, where the branches were. Or I should say are, because his paintings still are brilliant. Whereas Albert Bierstadt, he did stuff really meticulous, and they were detailed, but they were beautifully done. So each of those artists had some merits to it. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I know that my environment sketch is going to end somewhere down there. I don't want to go too in depth on that. So all of these little bushes that I put in here could be growing up this embankment. Maybe this is an old tree stump, who knows? I started to lightly shade directly over it, keeping the strokes close together. And that'll help me make everything look smooth. I don't want the scratchiness to show up unless it's deliberate. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over this at another angle, right where the bush line ends and the dirt begins, and I'm going to make that dark. So why am I doing that, do you think? Not only does this add in depth and mystery, but the lighting in this scene is it's eerie, it's ambient. There's no harsh, direct sunlight in this environment. So the shadows, the cast shadows, they're not really going to be well defined on the forest floor. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure that if I do have shadows, I'm going to show the darkness of where those objects are, but I'm not going to define the shadows to the point where we can see, like, the edges of all the shapes. Got to keep that intrigue alive and well in this drawing. Okay, now that we have established some of the shadows down here, I'm going to press harder on top of all the shadows, because some of these bushes, some of the shrubbery, they got kind of lost. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm showing tiny little, like, specks of branches, maybe tufts of grass or some kind of foliage growing off of here, but not being definitive about it. I want to make the viewer guess about what's there. I want to keep that intrigue alive. And it's also, it's in the middle of the forest, so there's going to be a lot of weird things growing off of the forest floor, right? And this is a made-up land, so we don't necessarily know what type of dimension this is. It could be very deadly. These plants could be alive like creatures. I think that'd be kind of cool too. And here, oh man, this is when you've earned the spot for details, because this is the controlled area that we want to focus on. But we have to make sure that we have to maintain the depth within this. So, we clearly established the foreground. We've hinted at the midground. The background has very light shapes in here that we're going to revisit too. Remember that weird dome shape right there, and we got some trees. So now that I've seen this evolve, I'm not quite sure that I want to keep the path down here in the water anymore. I'm thinking that maybe the path that this character needs to travel is up this hillside to go inside of a weird fortress. So maybe there's like a little opening up here and a platform, just like a very ancient castle-like structure. It's very formidable looking, very weird. Let's just keep it going. But we have to fade this out down here. So I'm just going to play around with some of these shapes again. Comment below if you're having a lot of fun doing this. If environment sketching is something that you would like to see me do more of, you know, I'm definitely up for it. Oh, and by the way, I recently posted something, made a public post, so just go into my public post in here, and I just asked the channel, all of you guys, what do you like seeing me draw the most? And I've been getting some awesome stuff, awesome feedback, and I read everything, okay? I take it, I want to make sure that you guys are learning as much as possible. That's what I'm most concerned with. So if you see me doing something in the past that you wish I would do more of, please tell me. You know, if it's specific creature anatomy lessons, fine. If it's environments, if it's robots, mechanical structures, all of that stuff, I listen to everything. I take it to heart. Okay, so I know that over the past couple years, people have been asking, hey, do some environments. I'm like, yeah, man, environments are freaking awesome. I love doing them. Okay, I have to make sure that I don't curse on my channel either, or else my videos will get banned probably. Okay, so now that I know I need more in this area, I'm going to start shading in that area without any concern. I'm just going to lightly place some pencil strokes in a couple different directions and move right past the trees. I don't know what that's going to be yet, everybody. Oops, I actually moved the camera here. So let's see. And then, since these are going diagonally, maybe I can do one that's almost vertical across everything. Let's see what happens. Okay, I can live with that. We'll try it one more time. Slightly off from the other angles. And there we go. Okay. So at least we have some of those shapes up there. Now the other fun part is that you can add in some mist and everything, but you know, like if you have edges of the trees right here, just go to the edge of the tree and shade slightly darker, almost like a spray of water mist going across everything. It will show up, so please don't think that you're just going to ruin everything if you put in some shadows across your hard-earned details right there. Okay, just make it puffy. Make it look like you accidentally smeared it, but you deliberately shaded it to look like that. Okay, but speaking of smearing, just keep your finger and your oils away from the paper and you should be fine. Okay, so let's take a step back. Let's see what's happening. Okay, so it looks like this hillside needs a little bit more definition. So I'm just going to shade up this hill right there. And as I get up there, now I can clearly see that maybe our fella needs to walk up this hill, and there's a door up here, like a big door. So I'm just going to darken the door area right there. And maybe it's a big door, who knows? Okay. These trees, I should probably make them a little bit more gnarly, but I think they're good enough for now because they're so far in the background that we don't really need to know what they look like. We just need to know that they're there. Our imagination can fill in the gaps on that. See all the in-between light foggy areas? That's good. That's good. So down here towards the ground, I'm just going to fade in some more fogginess working up towards the tree trunks. And then I'm going to get darker in the tree trunks a little bit. And there we have it. That's how we layer on fog and mist with a pencil. Now it's very ambiguous what's going on in there, and I didn't even erase it. I didn't need a blending stick. I didn't need to use my finger and not tell anybody that I did. It's there. You saw me do it. So try that. All of this land right here, there's a lot of opportunity to have some like paths moving up that direction. I'm not really sure yet how, but maybe there are no paths. Maybe our fella right here is just going to walk up on grass and make his own path. Maybe this structure is 1,700 years old. Maybe it's 3,000 years old, 8,000. Who knows? You just found it for the first time. Maybe there's a creature inside. Maybe there's an old gypsy. A lot of really cool possibilities here. We don't want to make it easy for them, that's for sure. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing small little tufts of grass, starting darker, moving lighter, and I'm moving the pencil strokes upwards. And they're all going different directions. Kind of like exploding fireworks. Okay, and then what I didn't think of before, but now it might be a good idea, small little cliffs going up there. So maybe the land is kind of cut. Maybe a lot more water traveled through here at one point. Okay, and then all of these strange shapes are remnants of a once very, very vibrant and violent stream. You know, hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. I think that'd be kind of fun. And then this hillside up here, maybe it was like that deep at once. Who knows? It'd be kind of cool. I think I want some more branches hanging off here just to show how creepy that is. Really skinny branches too. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And then I was going to put some leaves on this tree. Maybe it's, this poor thing is hundreds and like centuries years old and centuries old, and then maybe it doesn't have much, but I do know that I want some vines hanging off of this. That would be cool. This is why it's important to have sharp pencils, so that your little vines like that, little shapes that you want to put in here, stays crisp. Okay. And then down here towards the water, maybe some twisted plants you can kind of see in the background flowing over the water. So now there's a really awesome play on contrast. There we go. I'm starting to think that maybe our dude needs a bigger backpack right there, like something like that. And then the sword and pack of stuff that he's got, like, I don't know what he's got. Maybe he's taller than we thought. Maybe the feet will go down here. We don't want to go overboard. Okay, there we go. A lot of fun. Comment below if you're an environment concept artist and you're currently working on a game, or you're doing something for your portfolios. I'd love to hear it. Our Creature Design Workshop Discord is for all walks of life, all skill levels. So if you have some personal sketches that you'd like to show off, you want feedback on, you know, we have our own personal sketch threads on our Discord. We have critique forums. You name it, we got it. Creature Design Workshop Discord. Check out that link in the description below for that one. There we go. Okay, now we're starting to see that structure in the back. That really weird, mysterious, looks like a grape. It's a mysterious grape. There we go. Okay. Probably even put in some bushes up here. Maybe some indications of some trees. Maybe some fallen trees. There we go. Oh man, we could just keep going on this. So right over here, where the open area is, where all that mist is, they're going to have some more twisting shapes, lightly drawn. They're going to equal how dark these tree trunks are in the mid-ground. We won't want to get too dark, so we're just going to leave it. Okay, let's fill out just a little bit more of the foreground here. There we go. Ah, so much fun, everybody. If I were going to give one piece of advice to all aspiring environment concept artists, it is this: have a purpose for your environment. Because when you do an environment, you're showing the world of not only your world that you're inventing, but also you're bringing to life what was just words. So if you can show where the character needs to be going, give the character a purpose. If there's no character in it and it's just an environment, what can you do to pull us into the environment? Why are we looking at it? Okay, give a focal point. So if there's no character, is there a fortress in the background? Is it desolate? Okay, if it's desolate, what are some remnants of it being desolate? Are there skeletons because there's no water and the animals died, creatures died? If it's in the middle of space, what is it in space that's going to intrigue us? Okay, think about what you as the artist can do in order to pull everybody in and make us want to know more about that environment. All right, so I hope you liked today's lesson, everybody. If you want to see me do environment sketches, I'd be happy to. Thanks again, and see you next time. Peace.